If you keep walking into a room and forgetting why you went there, if names feel just out of reach, if conversations seem to slip through your fingers by the end of the day, a lot of you will be wondering whether this is just normal aging. To be honest, sometimes it is not. Sometimes it is the result of small daily habits that quietly chip away at the very brain systems you rely on to remember, focus, and think clearly. I'm Dr. Charles Oliver, and I spend a lot of time helping patients protect their brains long before serious decline sets in. So if this matters to you, subscribe, share this with someone you care about, and let's get into it. Habit 1. Treating sleep like it's optional. One thing I see all the time, and honestly I have to guard against it myself, is the temptation to borrow from sleep as if it were some harmless little overdraft. You stay up late finishing work, watching one more episode, scrolling your phone, and you tell yourself you will catch up later. But your brain does not treat sleep like spare time. It treats sleep like essential maintenance. Think of your hippocampus as the inbox on your laptop. During the day, it takes in new information, sorts it, tags it, and gets it ready to be filed. Sleep is when the filing actually happens. If you cut sleep short, that inbox stays cluttered. New information arrives, but there is nowhere clean to put it, so names, appointments, and details start bouncing off. And here's the thing, people often notice this as brain fog long before they think of it as a memory problem. There was a well-known study in Nature Neuroscience by Scott Yu and colleagues where healthy young adults were kept awake for one night and then asked to form new memories while researchers looked at the brain with functional MRI. The sleep-deprived group showed markedly worse memory encoding and reduced activity in the hippocampus, the very region you depend on for laying down new memories. In plain English, the brain's save button stopped working properly after just one night without sleep, which, if you think about it, is actually quite remarkable. Now, I'm not going to overstate the evidence here. One rough night does not mean you have permanently damaged your brain, and not every lapse after poor sleep is a sign of disease. But when short nights become your normal pattern, you repeatedly make memory formation harder than it needs to be. Stay with me, because this matters, because many people worry about dementia while doing almost nothing to protect the most obvious memory process they can influence tonight. So, what can you do tomorrow? Pick a fixed wake-up time first. Not a perfect bedtime, a fixed wake-up time. Your brain likes rhythm more than good intentions. Then set a phone alarm 1 hour before bed, not to wake you, but to tell you the day is over. Dim the lights. Stop the scrolling. If your mind races, write tomorrow's tasks on paper so your brain does not keep rehearsing them at 2 in the morning. You know, boring advice often works best. And let me add one more thing here, because people often miss it. Sleep is not just about duration. It is also about timing. If you sleep 6 hours one night, 9 the next, 5 the next, and then try to rescue everything on the weekend, your brain never gets into a reliable groove. It is a bit like asking an orchestra to perform when the conductor shows up at random times. The musicians are there, the instruments are there, but the coordination is poor. Memory depends on rhythm as much as rest, so if 7.5 hours sounds impossible right now, fine. Do not chase perfection. Chase consistency. A consistent sleep window will usually help your memory more than heroic catch-up sleep followed by another chaotic week. That sounds almost too simple, I know, but simple does not mean unimportant. Right then, moving on to something that seems harmless because everybody does it. Habit 2. Filling every spare moment with digital distraction. I'm talking about checking your phone while someone speaks, replying to messages with the television on, listening to a podcast while skimming emails, and then wondering why nothing seems to stick. A lot of people call this multitasking. Your brain does not. Your brain calls it repeated interruption. The best analogy I can give you is this. Imagine trying to pour water into 4 glasses at the same time while somebody keeps bumping your elbow. You may eventually get some water into each glass, but you spill a lot in the process. Memory works like that. For a memory to form, your brain has to give a moment enough clean attention for the hippocampus and the frontal lobes to tag it as important. If attention keeps fragmenting, the event never gets encoded properly in the first place. It is not that you stored it and lost it. Very often, you never stored it well. There was a Nature paper in 2020 by Kevin Medor and colleagues that looked at memory failure, attention lapses, and media multitasking. They found that heavier media multitasking tracked with more attention lapses and poorer memory performance. That matters because people often say, "My memory is terrible," when what they really mean is, "My attention never stays in one place long enough to build a memory." Honestly, that is one of the most overlooked distinctions in everyday brain health. And here's the thing, this habit feels productive. That is why it is so dangerous. You answer more messages, you switch faster, you feel busy. But busy is not the same as mentally effective. To be honest, the brain loves depth and hates constant context switching. Every switch has a cost. Tiny, yes. But repeated dozens or hundreds of times a day, those costs add up. A practical tip? Create memory windows. For 10 minutes at a time, do one thing only. If you are reading, just read. If you are talking to your partner, put the phone face down in another room. If you need to remember a name, a number, or an instruction, pause and repeat it out loud once. That little act tells the brain, this matters, hold on to it. And if you really want a simple rule, stop treating your phone like background furniture. Put it somewhere on purpose. Here is a quick test I give people. After you finish an article, a call, or even a short conversation, ask yourself, what were the 3 key points? If you cannot answer, do not assume your memory is broken. First, ask whether your attention was ever fully there. Were you half reading while checking notifications? Were you listening while mentally composing a reply? Now, that may sound like a small distinction, but it changes everything because the fix becomes practical. You do not need some exotic brain training program. You need fewer competing inputs at the moment of encoding. One conversation, one article, one task. That is how memory gets a fair chance. And yes, before someone says it, emergencies happen, life is messy, we all switch tasks sometimes. I do too. The point is not zero interruption. The point is reducing the constant self-inflicted fragmentation we have started calling normal. Now, here's something that surprised me when I first started explaining this to patients. Many of them would say, "But doctor, I feel alert when I'm constantly stimulated." Yes, in the moment perhaps. But alert is not the same as consolidated. Caffeinated attention and durable memory are not identical twins. They are barely cousins. And if you're finding this useful, which I really hope you are, please do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with somebody who keeps saying their memory is getting worse. It genuinely helps more people find these videos, and that matters to me because prevention only works when people hear about it in time. Okay, so let's talk about a habit that people rarely connect with memory at all. Habit 3, sitting for most of the day and calling it rest. I have patients who tell me they are exhausted, so naturally they sit more. They work sitting down, drive sitting down, eat sitting down, unwind sitting down, and then say they are resting. But from the brain's perspective, endless sitting is not recovery. It is understimulation of one of the systems that helps keep the brain nourished. Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, yet it is greedy. It needs steady blood flow, steady oxygen delivery, and steady metabolic support. Movement helps deliver that. Think of physical activity like regularly opening the windows in a busy house. Air moves, waste clears, everything functions better. When you barely move, the whole environment gets stuffier, not instantly catastrophic, but subtly less efficient hour after hour. A 2018 study in PLOS ONE looked at sedentary behavior in middle-aged and older adults and found that more sitting time was associated with reduced thickness in parts of the medial temporal lobe, a brain region deeply involved in memory. Then you can place that beside a randomized trial published in PNAS by Kirk Erickson and colleagues, where older adults who did aerobic exercise for a year increased the size of the anterior hippocampus and improved spatial memory. So no, a short walk is not a miracle cure. But the idea that daily movement has nothing to do with memory is simply wrong. I want to be careful here, because a lot of internet content takes one exciting brain scan and starts promising that a brisk walk will reverse everything. It will not. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is a magic bullet. It isn't. Some of the more dramatic claims you'll see online are well ahead of what the research actually supports right now. But what we do know is solid enough to take seriously. Regular movement supports the very brain circuits involved in learning and memory, and inactivity is not neutral. Why does movement help so much? Partly because exercise improves blood flow, insulin sensitivity, and the release of chemicals such as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which acts a bit like fertilizer for brain cells. I am simplifying, yes, but the picture matters. A brain that gets regular metabolic support is better equipped to adapt, connect, and preserve function. And no, you do not need to become a gym person. A lot of viewers switch off the moment they hear exercise because they picture marathons, protein shakes, and expensive memberships. Forget all of that. The brain responds to regularity before it responds to heroics. 10 minutes after breakfast and 10 after dinner, done most days, beats one punishing session, followed by 6 sedentary days. So what should you actually do? Use what I call movement snacks. Every 30 to 45 minutes, stand up and move for 2 or 3 minutes. Walk to the stairs. March while the kettle boils. Do 10 bodyweight squats while your lunch heats up. And aim for one dedicated walk each day, ideally brisk enough that you can still talk but would not want to sing. You know, it does not have to be glamorous, it just has to happen consistently. And this next one is probably the most overlooked because people defend it so fiercely. Habit 4. Using alcohol every evening as your way to switch off. I'm not here to moralize about drinking. A lot of you will be wondering whether I'm about to tell you that one glass of wine means disaster. No, that would be silly. But honestly, the routine of needing alcohol every evening to relax deserves a much more serious conversation than it usually gets, especially when memory is the topic. Here is why. Alcohol can make you feel sleepy. But sleepy is not the same as restorative sleep. It fragments sleep architecture, especially later in the night, and that means the brain gets a worse environment for consolidating memories. On top of that, alcohol acts directly on brain systems involved in learning, inhibition, and recall. So even when someone says, "I only drink at night," the next day's memory may still pay part of the bill. One especially important study, published in Nature Communications in 2022, analyzed brain imaging data from more than 36,000 adults in the UK Biobank, and found that alcohol intake was negatively associated with global brain volume, regional gray matter, and white matter microstructure, with associations already visible in people averaging roughly 1 to 2 alcohol units a day. Another large UK Biobank analysis, published in Neuroimage Clinical, linked alcohol use to worse MRI markers of brain structure and function in more than 25,000 participants. Again, I'm not going to overstate the evidence here. These are observational data, so they do not prove every cause and effect pathway by themselves. But they are hard to shrug off. And here's the thing. This habit often hides behind the language of reward. I've earned it. It helps me switch my brain off. It's just my routine. I get it. Truly. But if your evening drink becomes the button you press every single day, it is worth asking whether you are calming your mind or slowly dulling the very systems you want to protect. And there is another subtle problem with nightly drinking. It can teach you that discomfort must always be chemically softened. Stressful day? Drink. Lonely evening? Drink. Mind too busy? Drink. Over time, that habit steals the chance to build other calming skills that actually protect the brain, like walking, talking, reading quietly, stretching, praying, journaling, or simply sitting long enough for the nervous system to settle on its own. You know, resilience is not just about what you avoid, it is also about what you practice instead. Tomorrow's tip is simple. Build a replacement ritual before you try pure willpower. Same chair, same time. Different cue. Sparkling water in a proper glass. Herbal tea. A walk after dinner. 10 minutes of stretching with low light. If you currently drink every night, try 2 or 3 alcohol-free evenings each week for a month and pay attention, really pay attention, to your sleep, your morning clarity, and how often you lose your train of thought. Now, if you have been listening to all of this and thinking, fine, but my memory problems still feel bigger than a few habits, that is fair. Sometimes they are. If you are repeating questions, getting lost in familiar places, struggling with finances you used to manage easily, or someone close to you is worried, please do not just watch YouTube and hope for the best. Speak to your doctor, Get assessed properly. Good medicine is not about fear. It is about not missing what matters. But for many people, memory does not disappear all at once. It gets worn down. A little less sleep, a little more scrolling, a little less movement, a regular drink that becomes a daily reflex. None of these feels dramatic on its own. That is exactly why they are powerful. They are ordinary. They are repeatable. And because they are repeatable, they shape the brain you live with. So ask yourself a very honest question. Do you have a memory problem, or do you have a lifestyle that keeps making memory harder? Sometimes the answer is both, but very often, once people stop insulting their brain with these small, repeated hits, they are surprised by how much clearer they feel within weeks. That is not hype. That is just what happens when the brain finally gets a steadier signal, less noise, and a fair chance to do the ordinary housekeeping that good memory has always depended on. And honestly, that is where real prevention usually begins. To be honest, that is the hopeful part too. If habits can pull memory in the wrong direction, habits can also pull it back. Not overnight, not perfectly, but meaningfully. Start with the one that felt most uncomfortable while you were listening. Usually that is the one worth looking at first. Thank you for watching. If this helped you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper, I've done other videos on protecting your brain, improving sleep, and spotting early warning signs of cognitive decline, so have a search around the channel and keep learning. I'll see you in the next one.